would like to show you today is I would like to show you how the linked design works to be able to update. So I'm in Photoshop. I'm gonna open what I was working on last. So I was doing the design. Actually, I'm just gonna open the mock-up because I want to show you how the design is connected. Although there's some issue with it today. I'm trying to figure that out because there's an exclamation mark. Maybe I should redo it. Let's see. Or let's see. If I double click on it, because wait, why does it say smart object? Let me double click on it. Okay. So what's cool is because we placed it linked, we went file and we had these two options for placing. We have place embedded and place linked. And we placed linked. That's how I'd like you to place it. So placing linked allows you to then double click on the little icon and then it opens up the original file that can be updated. I'm not sure why it has that exclamation, but we'll figure that out. Okay, so if I go and I make a change to it, like let's say I go to my shape tools, maybe I'll for fun go to custom shape. And I go and I choose my options up here like shape. I'm going to choose shape and fill. It's on a gradient right now. Maybe I want something different. So maybe a different gradient. Maybe a pink gradient or a pink purple. Okay. And then I can choose from all kinds of shapes. I guess flowers would be good. So let's say I choose this flower here. And I selected it, and then I click and drag to draw it out. And it shows up here as a shape, and then I save it. Save. And then I go and I look at it in the mock-up, and there, it updated onto the mock-up. There it is, the flower. And it looks like the issue it was having corrected itself because now there's no exclamation, so it just needed some time to connect. So we have the link because we placed linked. Okay, what about the other option? Let's see, if we go file and we place embedded, what's the difference? Let's figure that out. So I'm going to place the design again, but this time embedded. So I'm going to just select my design file now that's been altered. And I'm going to click place. And let me zoom out with command minus. Yeah, and then I'll just scale this down. I don't have to hold shift. It'll scale proportionally because this little chain link is clicked. And then let's say I said, okay, I like that. So I'm going to press return or click the check mark up here. Alright, so let's see. Oh, I'm zooming in. Okay, zooming in by clicking and dragging now. Okay, so looks the same. It dropped in. When it dropped in after I clicked the check mark, look what happened to the icon. What type of layer is this? When I placed embedded, I got, what is this? When I hover over it, it'll tell you it's a smart object. And this little icon is a smart object. So what's the difference between the linked layer that was placed linked and the smart object layer that was placed embedded? What's the difference? Well, let's check it out. If I double click on the smart object icon, let's see what will happen. It opens up into the file. It looks like I'm in the original file, but am I? Okay, well, let's say I decide to remove something. Maybe I don't want this mirror pug layer here. Maybe I want to delete it for this one. So I select it, click the trash, say yes, delete group and contents, and it's gone. Now I'm going to save this. You might be saying, what? You're deleting all your work? Well, let's see. Am I? Let's go to the mock-up. Okay, so guess what happened here? You see what happened? This, oops. I'm going to turn off and on. See this layer that I'm turning off and on? This is the smart object. You see the smart object icon there? Let me grab it. So this is the smart object right here that I'm moving around. And this one is the original design. So the original design file, was it changed? No. As long as I didn't go in and double click on this linked icon and then change that, I'm not changing the original. When I go into the smart object, I'm just in a file that looks like the original file. It has all the editing capabilities of the original file, right? But it's not. So let's go into it again. I'm going to double click on it. Right here, and let's say I don't want the text now. I just want the flower, and then I'm gonna save that, and I can close it. It looks like I was just editing the original. Now it's only the flower. Okay, what else can I do? I also would like to show you how you do custom brush tips and custom patterns. Let me see if I have a pattern I can grab real quick. Let's see. I have opened up an old pattern that I did when I was demonstrating how to do Project 1. So you could use your Project 1 pattern for this in this very specific way to create a custom pattern or custom texture that can be worked with in all the ways that you find the pattern or texture option in Photoshop. So let's take a look at the assignment. So remember the options. You have the option to customize a paintbrush. That means a brush tip, I should say it that way, or a pattern. And when you paint with your custom pattern or your custom brush tip, then you get double the points. That's 2 for 1. You get 10 points for painting and 10 points for doing a custom brush tip or custom pattern. So let's take a look at how to do the pattern. So you can do a pattern with any image that you create a section of. I just think it's a good idea to use something like the pattern, the repeating pattern that you created for a project. One, if you created it in a way that creates a seamless repeat. And you can do that by, first you want to ungroup it if it's all grouped. So I'm going to ungroup it, object ungroup, or Shift Command G. And then hopefully you still have the individual boxes grouped, because then you can drag select over just like 4 boxes. That will be a nice repeat. And then you can copy. I'm going to hit Command C to copy, or Control C on Windows. Copy the Illustrator art, and then go to Photoshop, and then you can paste in Photoshop. Now, this is the only way that it's allowed to use artwork from Illustrator for this assignment. Only if you're doing a custom pattern. So it's not, we're not making art in Illustrator and then just pasting it in Photoshop and saying that's the t-shirt design. That's not how we're working. We're doing this only to generate a custom pattern to use the tools in Photoshop, all right? Okay, so I'm gonna hit Command V, or the same thing as edit, paste, Command V, and then I'm gonna choose, I'm just gonna choose Smart Object. You could choose Pixels. I'm gonna choose Smart Object because then it's more scalable. And then I could say OK, because if it's a smart object, you could make it bigger and it will not lose resolution. It's pulling the data from Illustrator. And then I'm gonna just click the check mark, and this is an Illustrator smart object. We'll learn more about the differences between Illustrator vector smart objects versus the Photoshop smart object, which is this design that was placed. So here it is. I'm just going to, actually I probably shouldn't have put it in this document. Here, let me throw that in the trash. I should probably do it in maybe the design. So is this the original? Yeah, this is the original. So I'm going to paste, Command V, Smart Object. Okay, comes in as its own layer. Maybe I'll make it a little bigger. And then check mark it to drop it in. And then I'm just going to temporarily turn off the text, because the next step I need to do is to draw a marquee around the section that I want to repeat. Like I said, you could get an image, like a photograph of a texture of some sort, and then you can set that as your pattern. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be using the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to draw around the section that I want to create into the pattern. Now I wish you could just load the marching ants by command clicking the thumbnail, but it won't work. See, if I command click the thumbnail, it loads the marching ants perfectly. But then when I go to edit, like I'm supposed to, in order to make the pattern, you go to edit and you choose define pattern, but it's grayed out. So that means it won't work if you just load marching ants. So you actually have to use the marquee tool and draw out the section you want. So you have to be careful. Let me zoom in a bit. Command plus, use the space bar to click and drag to adjust. And I'm just gonna line up my cursor just to the edge, kind of maybe a little bit inside the little section of artwork here, and then trying not to go outside, because if I go outside, then you're gonna see seams, you're gonna see little gaps when the pattern is repeating. So I'm trying to just get it to the edge and release there. Hopefully that's good. And then I'm just going to go to edit, drop down edit, and then now I can choose define pattern. Edit, define pattern. And then I'll name this I'll call this, like, it kind of looks like a holiday pattern, holiday floral, and I'll say okay. Okay, so this vector smart object that I pasted here, I can just turn it off. I don't need it to be part of the design. I don't want it to be part of the design. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect marching ants, and then I'm going to turn the text back on, and now I can paint something. So I can make a new layer, and I'll name this layer how I would like you to name it to score your points. So I would say custom pattern painting or something. So if I was going to do a painting on that layer, then I might do that. And then I can take my, for example, my pattern stamp tool. It's right under the clone stamp tool, and I can paint with that. I can choose now from the drop down here. I can choose, there's my custom pattern. When I hover over it, it's gonna say the name that I came up with, holiday floral. And now I can select it and I can paint with it. So I can just draw something. Okay, so right now I have the mouse, which is not the coolest way to draw, but here, let's see. If I draw something, now I'm drawing, and see how the pattern is showing up everywhere that I draw. This computer is kind of sluggish. Okay, so I'm gonna just erase that though. If I want to draw inside the lines on something else, I could do that as well. So I got this flower here. Where's my flower? Shape. So I can go here, I can load marching ants on the, here, I'll name this flower. Flower. And I'm gonna command click to load marching ants, but then I'm gonna go back up to my custom pattern painting, and then I can take that pattern stamp tool and draw maybe along the edges here, drawing in the pattern, showing on the edges of some of these petals. That could be an interesting way to go with this. Or I could draw, let's say I just filled it up. There we go. That's another way to go. And now I could also, on this layer, let me just hit Command D to deselect. On this layer, I could also add effects, layer styles, or effects, these. Or I could do that by choosing one or by double clicking on the layer. And then I have the layer style menu, so I could turn on bevel emboss and see now it pops, it really pops. And another place I could add my own custom pattern is actually in texture. See, I could choose the texture, and now it's not only got, it's not only painted on, but it's etched in my texture of my pattern. See, and I could change the scale. And the depth. And let's see, what else can I do here? Yeah, I could do a bunch of stuff like that. I could say, okay. Where else can I use my custom pattern? You guys remember? Let's say I go to brush settings. You remember in brush settings where you can add texture? Brush settings, texture right here. Then the drop down here, I can choose my custom pattern, and it will go into the paint. If I go to the mode, I can choose a mode that will show the pattern more. Darken maybe, or subtract. I can adjust the scale of the pattern, and the brightness, and the contrast. And then I can paint with it. So here, let's say, now I'm just going to go to my paintbrush here. Oops, I should have been on my paintbrush because I did that. Actually, I was on the pattern stamp tool and I was able to use brush settings for that. So I want to go back, turn texture on here, choose my pattern, and let's see, what was it that worked? Subtract. Let's see if that works. Contrast. Maybe multiply. No. Linear burn. No. I think if I go to a different brush tip, like the soft brush tip, and increase the size, and go back to texture, and maybe I'll try overlay, change the brightness. Oops, I'm going back to brush tip because I want to maybe increase the spacing. Texture, let's see if I uncheck texture each tip. No. Let's see if I change the depth. Okay, going back to subtract maybe, changing the brightness and the contrast. See it more on the edges. Let's go back to darken. No. Overlay. no. Linear burn, hard mix, color dodge. Let's adjust the brightness, contrast. What if I check invert? Let's see, no. Okay, the scale. I could get it to show more than that. Darken, subtract. There, I can see it more. Brightness, there we go. Contrast. Okay, so I can see the pattern, and then I'm gonna just zoom out here. And then if I'm on the same layer, it should also have the same bevel effect as well. So now see, when I paint, it's painting with the pattern in it and the bevel and emboss, which has the pattern etched into it. I'll turn off the effect for a moment so we can just see just the flat pattern in there. So this is all happening right on my custom pattern painting layer. I think I'm going to try it with my tablet now. I got my tablet here. I downloaded the drivers. Let's see. Yeah, so now it's working. Okay, but maybe I want to not have all that going on. So I'll just take my eraser and erase it all. And then I'm going to save this. So when I save the design, then when I go to the mock-up, it updated. Let me go back and turn on the effects again, because I turned them off, and I kind of like the 3D look with the effects on. So I'm going to save that and then look at it on the mock-up. Yep, it updated. Okay, so you see how whatever I do to the original design is gonna update here on this linked layer. And then what I do to the smart object layer, that's the embedded. This is the embedded one. It's only gonna exist on like a temporary editing space. So I could go in here to the embedded. Let me go in there. Oh my gosh, it's almost time for me to go. Okay, I can go there, and then I can make a, let's see, I'm gonna make a new layer. I'm gonna name it paw print. I'm gonna do this. I'm doing this in the this is inside of the smart object. And I'm doing this so I can also show you how to do a custom brush. I'm gonna do this with the pen. And I want to also take off texture and shape dynamics is good. Maybe I want to put bevel and emboss on it. okay. It's always fun to paint with bevel emboss. And then I'm just gonna, oh, that's too soft. Let me make the brush tip the harder brush. And then paint out a paw print on this layer here. I don't know why this is so sluggish. I guess my computer's getting old here at home. Okay, so I'm gonna make a big toe and a littler one. How many? Oop, that's a little too close there. There's a little one, and another one, and another one here. Okay. Okay, so let's say that's gonna be my custom brush. Let's see what happens here. So to make a brush tip, I would take the elliptical marquee and I'm just gonna draw that out as a circle or an ellipse around it. I can move it with the same tool to adjust it, to kind of center it. And then I'm going to go to Edit at the top, Edit, and then I'm going to go to Define Brush Preset. And I'll call this Paw Print. And say OK. And now I'll hit Command E to deselect. And then now if I wanted to paint on a separate layer with that, here, let me just use my move tool and move this layer over, be somewhere else. And then to get your points for customization as well as painting, make a new layer. I'm gonna click the plus at the bottom of the layer panel. I'm gonna call this custom brush tip painting. That's how you get your double your points, is to label your layer custom. So I know this is a custom brush tip and you're doing painting on it. Whoop, I spelled that wrong there. Okay, there. Alright, so while I'm highlighted on my custom brush tip painting layer, I can take my brush and I can now make sure my new custom brush tip is selected. There it is, paw print. And I could do things like change the spacing, and I could go to shape dynamics, and I could change the size jitter so it alternates in size, angle jitter so it alternates in angle, flip jitter so it flips around back and forth. And that might be fun there. So then when I paint with it, here's with the mouse, just painting with the mouse, it kind of goes in, it looks like a ghost sort of. That's kind of fun. But if I want it to be more solid, then maybe I don't use jitter. Maybe I take off the size jitter, take off the angle jitter, take off the flip jitter, and I just use it like a stamp. So I can rotate the angle like this, and then with that little gadget, and then I can just click. But see how my first click, it's like a ghost, so I have to keep clicking till it's solid. If I like that effect on it there, then I could just grab the same effect and option drag it up to there, and then it'll match. If I want to flip, I could do flip X, so it flips the other way, angle it the other way, and then click, 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 and then flip it back, angle it the other way. So I'm using my brush like a stamp at this point. And then I can save this and close it. And this is not the, what is this? This is the embedded layer that is a smart object. So I just wanted to also show you, because I showed you how to use the displace filter to that will automatically analyze the folds in the shirt, or the highlights and shadows, and then warp the design to the shaping of the shirt based on the folds, the highlights and shadows. Well, I also want to show you how you could do this manually as well with warping. So I'm gonna, on this layer here, the embedded one, that is the smart object, this one here, I'm gonna just warp it real quick. So I'm gonna go to edit, transform, warp, to show you how you could grab these little control points here, little points, and tug and pull and warp. Like if I wanted to warp this design to be looking like it is bending on his shoulder, around his shoulder, I could do that. So you could warp just like similar to the way that the original design, the design is warping by the displace analysis. You could also warp your design to fit the shape of something. So this has this warp grid that you can grab on the points here. You can drag on the handles to pull and stretch and warp and shape your design to fit something. That works really well if you're doing an illustration of the shirt as opposed to the photographic version. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and apply that by clicking the check mark there. And another thing that I might want to do is make it hide in the shirt. So if I go to, let's see, if I turn this off, if I go to the background layer and then I go to my object selection tool, let's see if it'll find the guy. Object select. Doesn't look like that's working. Let me just click select subject. There. So we found the edges of the guy. There we go. Now it's working. And then now if I, let's see, I can make that a separate layer, so I can Command J that. And now I could have that be, let's see, if I put this design above this layer. This is the duplicate guy, or this is just the guy. Okay, this is the guy. See what happens if I put the design here, the embedded design, into the guy layer. So I'm going to do that by option clicking between the two layers to make a clipping mask. So that works kind of on the edges. Doesn't quite work on the neck here, so I could either erase the design, or I could have erased the guy or selected it better so that I wasn't selecting his neck too. Let's see if I erase some of the guy here. What happens? Yeah, that's what happens. It's hiding it into the shirt there. Oops, maybe I kind of like it on the collar. And then on the design that is going into the clipping mask, I can mess with the blending modes. So it kind of shows the fabric through it. Do different things like that. Or I could do what I did with the other one, where I double click and mess with the layer, current layer, underlying layer. Let's do current layer. I option drag one way or another with these so that you can see the texture through, or this one here, so the texture of the shirt shows through. And you can also cross them over there like that, but you don't have to do all that. Here, this one is still showing here. Uh-oh, no it's not. Right, the guy here, let me go to the guy and erase a little more there. Alright, so you don't have to do that. I'm just illustrating a point about the difference between the embedded layer that was done by placing embedded, which is a smart object layer, and the linked layer. The linked layer is linking back to your original design, whereas the smart object is just linking back to a file that only exists when you call upon it to exist. I mean, it exists. It's stored. If you double click on it and you take a look at where it actually is, you go File, Save As, and then you can see where it's actually saving. It's actually saved deep into the folder structure that comes along with your Photoshop application when you install it. So that's where the smart object actually exists. It's just in a spot that works kind of with the software, so you can open it up when you double click on the smart object icon, edit it, and then save it, and then go on with your day. Whoops, we don't want to, actually I don't want to save it, cancel. We don't want to save it. Unless you want to save it somewhere else, then you do a save as and save it. Then you can extract the file and have the file. But normally on a smart object, you don't work with it that way. It's just stored in this strange place, private, like in all these, this pathway. It goes from this folder to this folder, this folder, this folder, and it's inside of Adobe Photoshop folder. So I'm going to cancel out of that. So that's where it exists. So you just save it, close it, and it updates in your layout or wherever you have it going on. So alright, so that is that. I think it looks better without that. But the design probably needs some more work. So I'm going to throw this one away and this one away. And we'll go with that for now. So when you're ready to turn this in, turn in the Photoshop document here that shows all your 3 methods of designing or drawing, and it shows that you incorporated a photo layer as well. And then your mock-up. So turn in those 2 when you're done. See, just go to your assignment, click Start Assignment, choose to get the files there to turn in. I'm gonna go to my folder for this class here, and then I turn in my design file as well as the mock-up. So the design file, and then add another file, add file by clicking, and then the mock-up should be labeled just like this. The mock-up is the one like that, and then open, and they're both loaded, and then you can just click submit assignment. And if you get it in before the due date or by the due date, you get the confetti party. Let's see if I get a confetti party. So it is loading one, and then it loads the other. So please do turn in these files as Photoshop documents, and please make sure that your design is placed linked. Yay. All right, and also remember to come in on Wednesday, after the day after this is due, so that'd be May 20th, to print, to do your printing and turn in your prints. All right, thanks everyone.